I'd like some Trews, you'll get some Trews right now. I want some Trews, this is the Trews theme tune. So Trews is likely to occur right now. This is the Trews, dum 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 Trews. We're English, there was a marathon in our city. We wanted Mo Farah to win, he didn't. What else is there? E-cig Gran, blown up in a fireball. Those are those electrical cigarettes. She's blown up in a hospital. Let's just check, was it a private hospital? No, it was in an NHS hospital. Well, don't go in an NHS hospital, you might be exploded by an elderly grandmother smoking an e-cig. I'll tell you what, I've been in NHS hospitals lately, they're bloody brilliant. So don't keep trying to destroy them. David Cameron has gone on holiday. Must be half of David Cameron now, because he's rich, he's always been rich. He's never had a mortgage, never had to do anything difficult before, never been in debt. Now he can't go on nice holidays. The PM and his wife Sam and their 3 kids flew by Ryanair because they had to £200 a night farmhouse because they had to, in Lanzarote because they had to. We are hierarchical animals, aren't we, I suppose? Like, we do, like any sort of society does tend to organise itself, like even if it's a tribe of 100 people, they're not going, right, you lot are in charge, you're in charge of medicinal values, you look after the children. It's like people are different from one another, so it's not like you can't tolerate layers, but what's happened is the galling inequality. That's become the problem, isn't it? The galling inequality. David Cameron flashes his pale legs on the first day of a week-long break. That's a bit annoying, isn't it? You've got to go on holiday and you've got to pose there with your wife in those shoes, which another paper says he wore last year, with pasty and suspiciously hairless legs, like 2 unwanted breadsticks at a Downing Street fundraiser. That's a weird thing to say. Coupled with those naff suede moccasins, this is a political hype. Why are they talking about his clothes? Why are they all talking about what he's wearing? I was extraordinary. I'm just confused. You know the Prime Minister of Great Britain? Do you want to know what he wears on holiday? No. Well, we've covered it in many ways. Fracking to help cut global warming over the next 100 years. You know, like, you might have heard things like fracking's bad. You know, so you've probably heard people say, well, if you drill into the Earth's core and release these gases, it's disruptive. You may even have heard that it gets into the water supply and makes your water toxic and in some cases flammable. And I know that might sound rational and logical to you, but it isn't. What fracking is it's a good thing and that will help cut global warming over the next 100 years. It's a good thing. I wonder who helped to get this information into the paper. Here are the police, people are protesting against it. Claims of the Green Brigade. Fracking can help to slow global warming, admit UN scientists. Alright, fracking's okay. Why was you saying you're against it? Just for a laugh. We just thought, no, I don't like fracking, I don't like the word, but it's actually fine. We admit it now. Fracking then. Really good. It's a really good thing to have fracking. E-cigarettes on the other hand though, they're fucking lethal. Don't, like, frack away all day, but just don't have an e-fag. Again, there's pictures of this man, there's been a sexy murder. We love a sexy murder, innit? Because we think it's like Broadchurch or some sort of television programme. There's a sexy murder, a sexy woman's murdered a man, he had another sexy girlfriend. Still sad, they've still got relatives and that. No, they've not. They're just all sexy, but they sit around wanking. Yeah, their relatives are upset. Are they upset though? Or are they sort of looming at the coffin, putting their winky woos up against the coffin? No, I think they're really grieving. The huge influx of immigrants to Britain in the last 13 years has put overwhelming strain on our public services. Labour had 2 plans when they threw open our doors. Woohoo! Come on in, guys! Threw open our doors in 2001 to fuel a boom with cheap workers. They grossly underestimated how many migrants would come. Gross it was. 1 hospital, 24 hours, 14 newborns. 3 are British. Look at these blokes. Colombia, brown as you like, Sono and baby. They're not like directly saying, you dirty fucking bastards, get out of our country. But they mean it, don't they? A new survey suggests that our national pride is waning, but that might be a good thing. Yeah, it is a good thing because there's no such thing as nation. It's just a made-up silly idea, isn't it? Right, here's something to think about. So this guy, Zhuangzi, he was a Chinese philosopher. He made odd propositions to people and humorous ideas. And this writer, Edward Slingerland, says, in my view, this is probably a strategy for getting people into wu-wei, a state of flow where you're connected. He's trying to use humour, paradox or simple weirdness to shock us out of our normal ways of thinking. The text of the Zhuangzi is trying to do something to you, and its effectiveness in that regard is difficult to convey. You need to experience it. Isolated quotations can only give a sense. Consider this passage, for instance. There is a point at which something begins. There is a point at which we've not yet begun to have a beginning. There is a point when we've not begun to begin to not yet have a beginning. There is existence, there is non-existence. There is also a point where we have not yet begun to have non-existence. And when we have not yet begun to have a beginning to non-existence, it goes on like this for a while. Some traditional Chinese commentators and modern scholars of the text have racked their brains trying to figure out the logic involved in these statements, treating this passage as if it were a straightforward philosophical argument. It's almost certainly not. The scepticism about our possibility of knowledge expressed here is meant as spiritual therapy, not religious doctrine. Reading it, our certainty that logic and rationality can get us where we want to go is shaken, and that's the effect Zhuangzi wants to achieve. I suppose what it is that there's a whole different way of perceiving reality, of understanding reality. We have overly prioritised, many people say, the material, rational, logical means of receiving information. We've become overly rational. This is the way we see the world. Organisation of resources and material. And we've disconnected, oh, that's hokum, that's bunk, that's hullabaloo. It seems that we've disconnected ourselves from nature, not just nature as in terms of the ecology and the environment, but our own nature. We've lost touch with our own nature, so everything is now symbolic and representative. Am I proud of being British? Do I want Mo Farah to win the marathon? Is fracking a good thing? We can't tell anymore because there's a sort of sense of absolute disconnection. We've lost our way. Our stories don't connect us to reality. Behind all of these sort of flimsy, shadowy bits of trivial data, there is a hint of something more powerful. You know, fracking. Obviously, if you don't live in harmony with your environment, you're going to have problems. Britain, it's probably good to have some kind of tribal identity as long as you're able to coalesce with people with a different tribal identity. Immigration, it's like we're on an island, you need immigration. Yeah, what you're sort of left with is that we need a new system for thinking. We've forgotten how to think properly. That is some truths we cannot think properly. There is some truths we do not think properly. It's these people's fault. Not entirely their fault, but they're not helping. There's a quiz on the back of this one. Once I lived with someone, I used to do this every day. Once I went over to the bin, because, I missed throwing something in the bin. There was one of the crosswords, he was doing it every day, and I looked at the crossword. He'd just been writing anything in there. Didn't have a relationship to the clues. I was frightened when I discovered that because he spent a lot of time doing them.